The rain hammered the windshield of my old sedan as I drove the back roads out of Chicago, the wipers struggling to keep up with the downpour. It was one of those nights where the city felt too loud, too bright, too full of memories I couldn't escape. I was Naomi Brooks, 28, once the queen of the underground tattoo scene, my work inked on musicians, artists, and rebels who lined up for months. My studio in Wicker Park had been a haven, black walls covered in flash sheets, the buzz of needles like a heartbeat, the scent of ink and green soap. My brother Jamal had been my partner, my hype man, the one who handled the books while I created art on skin. Then the fire came, a faulty heater in the back room, they said. It spread fast, flames devouring everything. My tools, my portfolio, Jamal. I woke in the hospital, half my face wrapped in bandages, my left arm a map of graphs and scars. Jamal didn't wake at all. The left side of my face was a twisted landscape of keloids and graphs, my cheek and jaw forever changed. My left wrist and hand, once steady with a needle, now bumpy and stiff. People stared with pity, disgust, or that quick look away that hurt worst. I stopped tattooing, stopped going out in daylight, stopped looking in mirrors. That night, the rain drove me out of my cramped Bronx apartment. I needed air, noise, anything to drown the silence. I ended up at a roadside bar off the highway, a dim place with neon beer signs and a jukebox playing old blues. I pulled my hood low, my coat collar high, hiding the scars as best I could. I nursed a whiskey at the end of the bar, the burn in my throat a distraction from the burn on my skin. The door swung open, letting in a gust of cold rain. A man stepped in, shaking water from his coat, his hand on the shoulder of a small boy, maybe 6, bundled in a rain jacket too big for him. The man was white, tall, with tired eyes and dark hair plastered to his forehead. He looked like someone carrying invisible weight, his movements careful as he guided the boy to a booth. The child's eyes were wide, taking in the room, innocent but curious. I kept my head down, staring into my glass. I didn't want company, didn't want questions, but the boy's gaze landed on me. He stared, not subtle, his small face tilted. I felt it, the familiar prickle of being seen as something broken. My hand tightened around the glass. "Are you hurt?" the boy asked, his voice carrying over the jukebox, clear and unafraid. The bar quieted a fraction. My chest tightened, the old shame flooding back. I stood abruptly, my stool scraping the floor. "Don't look at me," I said, my voice rough, cracking. "I'm not something for you to stare at." The boy's father looked up, his expression shifting to concern. "Oliver, honey, that's not polite." But I was already moving, my coat clutched tight, pushing through the door into the rain. The cold slapped my face, water soaking my hood, blurring my vision. I ran to the parking lot, my boots splashing puddles, my breath ragged. I didn't need pity. I didn't need reminders. Footsteps followed, steady on the wet gravel. I turned, rain streaming down my face, and there he was, the man, alone, his coat open to the storm. He stopped a respectful distance away, his hands visible. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice cutting through the rain. "My son didn't mean to hurt you. He's just curious. He doesn't understand yet." I wiped my face, anger and embarrassment warring inside. "He shouldn't have to understand. People should mind their own," He nodded, rain dripping from his hair. You're right. But he's 6, and he's seen things. His mom passed in a car accident 2 years ago. He asks questions when he sees pain. It's how he processes. I stared, the rain masking the tears I refused to acknowledge. Well, tell him not everyone wants to be his lesson. I will, he said softly. I'm Ethan Miller, and I'm truly sorry. He didn't move closer, didn't offer false comfort. He just stood there, letting the rain soak us both. Something in his eyes, the same quiet grief I carried, made me pause. For the first time in months, someone hadn't looked away in horror or pity. He looked tired, like me. I turned back to my car, my keys cold in my hand. Go back inside, I said. Your kid's waiting. He hesitated, then nodded. Take care. I drove away, the rain easing as the highway stretched ahead. His face stayed with me, the man who'd run after me, not to fix or stare, but to apologize. I didn't know his story, but in that moment, under the storm, I'd felt less like a monster. The scars still ached, the loss still burned, but for a fleeting second, the rain had washed away some of the isolation. I didn't know if I'd see him again, but as the wipers cleared my view, I wondered if the world still had room for someone like me, or if that night had been a fluke in the dark. The rain pounded the asphalt, turning the parking lot into a mirror of broken lights. I stumbled into the alley behind the bar, my back against the cold brick wall, my hood soaked through. My breath came in sharp gasps, the child's innocent question echoing like a knife. Are you hurt? Hurt, as if it was that simple. The scars on my face and arm throbbed, not from pain, but from the memory of fire, of losing Jamal, of waking up to a world that no longer recognized me. I hated how one look from a boy could unravel me, how it reminded me I was still raw, still hiding. Footsteps approached, slow and deliberate on the wet gravel. I tensed, ready to bolt again, but the figure stopped at the alley's mouth, silhouetted against the bar's neon glow. It was him, the father, Ethan Miller. He didn't rush in, didn't invade my space. He just stood there, rain dripping from his coat, his hands visible at his sides. I'm sorry, he said, his voice carrying over the downpour, low and steady. Oliver didn't mean to upset you. He's just a kid. He asks what he sees. I pressed harder against the wall, my arms crossed tight. Then teach him not to see, I snapped, my voice cracking. I don't need questions. I don't need anyone staring. He didn't flinch, but his shoulders sagged slightly. I get it, more than you know. I laughed, bitter and short. You get it? You, with your perfect face and your kid. You have no idea. He took one step closer, still keeping distance, rain streaming down his face. My wife died in a car accident 2 years ago. Oliver was in the back seat. He saw her, after. The injuries. He asks about pain because he remembers hers. And mine. The words landed, heavy as the rain. I looked at him, really looked the lines around his eyes. The way he held himself, like he carried something invisible. I'm sorry, I muttered, the fight draining from me. You don't owe me that, he said. I didn't follow to make you feel worse. I just didn't want you to think you were alone out here. Alone, the word hit home. I slid down the wall, sitting on the wet ground, my knees drawn up. The rain soaked me, but I didn't care. Ethan lowered himself to a crouch, still a few feet away, his coat darkening with water. We sat in silence, the storm our only company. It wasn't awkward, it was space, the kind I hadn't had with anyone since the fire. Oliver asked me the same thing once, he said quietly. About his mom. Does it hurt? I didn't know how to answer. Still don't. I wiped rain from my face, my voice barely above the patter. It hurts every day, not the scars they're remembering, he nodded, his eyes on the ground. I lost part of myself that night, too, the man I was. He's gone, but Oliver keeps me going, and some days, that's enough. I glanced at him, the neon light catching the sadness in his profile. He wasn't pitying me, he was sharing, like we were two survivors in the same storm for the first time in months. The weight felt shared, not crushing. The rain eased to a drizzle. He stood, offering his hand not to pull me up, but open, an invitation. You don't have to take it, he said. But if you want to get out of the rain, my truck's over there. I can drive you home, no questions. I stared at his hand, calloused, steady. My own trembled as I reached out, our fingers brushing. His grip was warm, firm, but gentle. He helped me up, and we walked to his truck in silence, Oliver asleep in the back seat, his small face peaceful under a blanket. He drove slow, the wipers rhythmic. Where to? He asked. I gave my address in the Bronx, my voice steadier. We didn't talk much, but the quiet wasn't empty. When he pulled up to my building, he turned. Thank you for letting me drive you. I paused at the door. Thank you for not turning away. He smiled faintly. Take care, Naomi. I didn't correct him on my name, he hadn't asked, but somehow knew from my credit card at the bar. As I climbed the stairs to my apartment, soaked but strangely lighter, his truck's lights faded. For the first time since the fire, someone had seen my pain and hadn't run. The scars were still there, the loss still ached, but in that rain-soaked alley, a hand had reached out and I'd taken it. I didn't know what it meant, but as I peeled off my wet clothes, the mirror catching my reflection, I didn't look away quite as fast. The weeks after that rainy night blurred into something I hadn't expected, a slow thawing of the ice I'd built around myself. I was Naomi Brooks, 28, a woman who'd hidden from the world since the fire took my brother, my studio, and the face I'd once known. The scars on my left cheek and jaw, the bumpy grafts on my wrist, they were constant reminders, making me flinch from mirrors and crowds. But Ethan Miller's quiet pursuit, born from that alley conversation, chipped away at my walls. It started with a message, slipped under my apartment door a few days later. If you ever need someone who won't turn away when they see you, I'm here, no pressure, Ethan. His number was below. I stared at it for days, my thumb hovering over the phone. I didn't call, but I didn't throw it away either. The second meeting happened by chance, or so I told myself, at a small cafe in the Arts District, the kind with mismatched chairs and walls covered in local paintings. I went for the light, the people who minded their own business. I sat in a bright corner, no hood, letting the sun hit my scars. It was a test, for myself more than anyone. That's when he walked in, Oliver's small hand in his, the boy carrying a sketchbook. Ethan spotted me, his eyes widening slightly, but he didn't hesitate. Naomi, he said, approaching slowly. Mind if we join? Oliver wanted hot chocolate. I tensed, my instinct to hide rising, but Oliver's grin, innocent, gap-toothed, stopped me. Okay, I said, my voice softer than intended. They sat, Oliver chattering about school drawings, Ethan ordering drinks. He looked at me directly, no flicker of discomfort at my scar. You picked a good spot, he said. The light's nice here. I touched my cheek self-consciously. I'm trying not to hide as much. His eyes held mine. Good, you shouldn't have to. The conversation flowed easier than the first time. Oliver showed me his sketches, wobbly superheroes and animals. You draw too? He asked, his eyes wide. I used to tattoo, I said, surprising myself. Permanent drawings on skin. His face lit up. Cool, can you draw on me? Ethan chuckled. With washable markers, maybe. I smiled a real one, small but genuine. For the first time in 2 years, it didn't feel forced. We met again after that, intentionally now. Coffee turned to park visits, where I'd bring markers and draw temporary tattoos on Oliver's arms, dragons, stars, anything he wanted. He'd beam, calling them superpowers. Ethan watched, his quiet pride evident, but he gave us space. One afternoon in the park, leaves crunching underfoot, Oliver napped on a blanket. Ethan and I sat nearby, the air crisp. I thought I'd never love again, he said, his voice low. After my wife. Everything felt gray. But meeting you, seeing how you carry your pain, it makes me look deeper. I traced a scar on my wrist. Pain doesn't break us, I said. It just changes the view. He nodded, his hand near mine on the grass. You're strong, Naomi, not despite the scars, but because of them. The words settled warm in my chest. We shared more his grief over the accident, my loss of Jamal, and the life I'd known. He never pushed, never pitied. He just saw me, fully, the way no one had since the fire. Oliver woke, running over with a dandelion. For you, he said, tucking it behind my ear, his small fingers brushing my scarred cheek without hesitation. You're pretty like a superhero. I laughed, tears pricking. Ethan smiled, his eyes soft. He's right. As the sun set, painting the park gold, I felt the scars less like chains and more like stories. Ethan and Oliver weren't fixing me. They were reminding me I was still whole. I wasn't ready for more than these moments, but for the first time, I didn't want to run. The world still held shadows, but with them, light found its way in. The days after our park afternoons began to feel like a fragile bridge, one I walked with caution but growing ease. I was Naomi Brooks, 28, the woman who'd once inked stories on skin, but now hid her own. The scars on my left cheek and jaw, the bumpy grafts on my arm, still made me flinch from mirrors. But Ethan's quiet acceptance and Oliver's innocent joy had started to soften the edges. We met regularly, now coffee, walks. Simple moments that built trust without pressure. Ethan shared more about his wife's accident, the grief that had reshaped his life as a single father. I opened up about Jamal, the fire, the way it had stolen my confidence. I used to create beauty, I said one day, tracing my arm. Now I just hide. He looked at me, his voice soft. You still create it. You just don't see it yet. Those words stayed with me, a light in the dark. But darkness has a way of returning when you least expect it. It started with a notification on my phone, a ping in the quiet of my apartment. I'd kept a low profile online since the fire, but curiosity made me click. A video, grainy from a bar camera, showed me that first night, standing abruptly, my hood slipping, my scarred face visible as I snapped at Oliver. The caption, "Scarred woman freaks out over kid's question. Overreact much?" Shares climbed by the hour, comments flooding. Monster vibes. Poor kid. That's nightmare fuel. Why go out if you look like that? I froze, the screen blurring. The humiliation crashed over me like the fire's heat all over again. I'd let my guard down with Ethan and Oliver. Started believing I could be seen without judgment. But the world cruel, quick to mock, reminded me I was still a spectacle, a freak. Likes and laughs piled up, each one a stab. I slammed my phone down, curling into myself on the couch, tears hot on my cheeks. The scars burned anew, not from pain but shame. Who was I kidding? I was broken, and no amount of kindness could fix that. I ignored Ethan's texts that day, my phone on silent. By evening, the video had gone viral, my name tagged in threads. Naomi Brooks, the tattoo artist who got burned, literally. Old clients messaged pity, strangers spewed hate. I wanted to disappear, to crawl back into the shadows where I'd been safe, alone. The thought of seeing Ethan, of Oliver's innocent eyes on my monster face, made me sick. I couldn't do this, not again. A knock at my door startled me. I peered through the peephole. Ethan, alone, a folder in his hand. I opened it a crack. "Go away," I said, my voice raw. "Please, Naomi," he said softly. "Let me in, just for a minute." I hesitated, then unlatched the chain. He stepped inside, rain dripping from his coat, his eyes searching my face, not with horror, but concern. "I saw the video," he said. "I'm sorry." I turned away, hugging my arms. "Everyone saw it. That's the point. I'm a joke, a freak." "You're not," he said, his voice firm. "You're Naomi, the woman who draws superheroes for my son, the one who listens when I talk about my wife, the one who survived more than most." Tears fell. "You don't get it. They see the scars. That's all they'll ever see." He set the folder on the table. "Oliver drew this for you. He doesn't know about the video, he just missed you today." I opened it. A child's drawing. A woman with scars on her face, holding a shield like Wonder Woman, smiling. Below, in crayon, "Super Naomi, you're strong." I sank to the couch, sobbing not from pain, but from the flood of being seen, truly seen, as more than my wounds. Ethan sat beside me, not touching, just there. "I don't need you to be strong," he said quietly. "I just need you to stay, if you want to." I looked at him, tears blurring his face. "Why? Why do you care?" "Because you're more than your scars," he said. "And so am I. We both lost parts of ourselves, but we can find new ways to be whole." I leaned into him, his arm wrapping around me gently. The chasm between us felt bridgeable. The video still hurt, the world still judged. But in that moment, with Oliver's drawing in my lap and Ethan's presence beside me, the darkness receded a little. I wasn't fixed, but I was held, and that was enough to keep going. The year after that rainy night passed in a blur of small victories and quiet healing. I was Naomi Brooks, 29 now, the woman who'd risen from the ashes of a fire that took my brother, my art, and part of my face. The scars on my left cheek and jaw, the bumpy grafts on my arm, they were still there. Reminders of loss, but they no longer defined me. Ethan's steady presence and Oliver's innocent joy had helped me see that. We met regularly, park days, coffee runs, evenings where I'd sketch while Oliver told stories. Ethan never pushed for more, but his quiet support, born from shared grief, had become my anchor. One morning, I stood outside a small storefront in Brooklyn's Arts District, the key in my hand trembling slightly. Scar Soul, the sign read, hand-painted in bold letters. It was mine, a tattoo studio for those like me, people with scars who wanted art to reclaim them. No fancy equipment, just a clean space with walls for flash designs and a chair where clients could sit without judgment. I'd saved every penny from odd jobs, Ethan offering advice on the lease without overstepping. Opening day was quiet, no grand party, just a few flyers and word of mouth from old clients who remembered my work. My first client arrived that afternoon, a young woman, 25, with a long surgical scar across her chest from a heart operation. "I want a lotus flower over it," she said, her voice hesitant. "To make it mine." I nodded, settling her in the chair. "Lotus grows from mud," I said softly. "It's perfect." As I worked, the needle's buzz filled the room, a sound I'd missed like an old friend. I shaded the petals, blending colors to match her skin, turning the scar into a canvas of beauty. When she looked in the mirror, tears fell. "It's me," she whispered. "Thank you," I smiled, my own scars feeling less heavy. "You're welcome. Come back any time." That evening, as the sun set, the door chimed. Ethan and Oliver walked in, Oliver's eyes wide at the colorful walls. "Naomi," he shouted, running to hug me, his small arms wrapped around my waist, his face pressing against my side without hesitation. "Hey, kiddo," I said, ruffling his hair. "Like the place?" "It's awesome. Can I get a tattoo?" he asked, grinning. Ethan chuckled, setting down a takeout bag. "Markers only, buddy. We brought dinner to celebrate." We sat on the floor, eating sandwiches amid the smell of fresh ink and wood polish. Oliver grabbed markers, drawing on my arm wobbly stars over my grafts. "Now you're a superhero too," he said. I laughed, the sound free. Ethan watched, his eyes soft. "You did it," he said quietly. "This place, it's you." I looked around, the studio glowing under string lights. "It is, for the first time in years." Oliver yawned, curling up with his sketchbook. Ethan helped clean up, our hands brushing as we packed the trash. The touch lingered, warm and intentional this time. "I'm proud of you," he said, his voice low. I met his gaze. "Thanks for being here. From the start." He smiled, his hand finding mine. "I wouldn't be anywhere else." As they left, Oliver turned back. "See you tomorrow, Naomi, for more drawings?" "Tomorrow," I promised. Alone in the studio, I locked up, the neon sign flickering off. I glanced in the mirror by the door. The scars still there, but in the dim light, they looked like art, not ruin. The fire had taken much, but it hadn't taken everything. With Ethan and Oliver, I'd found a new canvas, a life where scars were stories, not shame. I didn't know what tomorrow held, more clients, deeper connections, or challenges. But as I walked home, the stars bright above, I knew the darkness had receded. Light had found its way in, and for the first time, I welcomed it